and welcome to Back to the Balcony, the podcast about movies and culture from a classic century. I am your host, Jimmy England. This is the first time we've ever put one of these episodes up on YouTube. We've actually done audio episodes now for over 10 years, 10 and a half years, I think exactly. But this particular one is hopefully going to be the first of a series that we're actually going to post on YouTube. Now, it is an audio-only podcast, so all you can do is listen to it. The reason is that we do a lot of editing to do as good a job as possible. We've been wrestling with some sound difficulties, which unfortunately I didn't manage to get remedied in this episode, but we do as we go along here. Anyway, it's the Mask of Zorro. It's got our guests, Chris Wuergler, and our guest engineer, Kristian Reimer. I think you're really going to enjoy it, and hopefully you'll join us for more episodes, either here on YouTube or anywhere else where you can get podcasts. You'll find Back to the Balcony. Thanks a lot, everybody.
This is my Poppy's podcast. He likes to talk about movies from the 20th century. That's like a million years ago. He knows a lot, but his friends must know even more, because they're always telling him he's wrong. But he's funny and interesting and a good Poppy, even if he doesn't know what a spoiler is. Enjoy!
Olé, and welcome to Back to the Balcony, a podcast about movies and culture from a classic century. I'm your host, Jimmy England, and while our engineer Phil has rewritten that exam you've heard so much about over recent weeks, he doesn't have the results yet, and we did want to harass him with questions about how he thinks he did. So stepping in for Phil at the recording board is our great friend, Kristian Reimer. Are you up to this awesome responsibility, Kristian?
It is an honor and a privilege to fill these big shoes of Phil's. Thank you. I'll take on this challenge.
Yay!
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up your recent show at the Hamilton Fringe Festival that you did with Larry Smith, another Back to the Balcony guest. What was it called and how did you guys do?
It was called The Giant Monster That Came from Space and Ate Hamilton in 3D. That's right. It was. It's just what it sounds like. A monster came from space and it consumed Hamilton. The show is in 3D with live human puppets. That's right. Can you imagine something like human puppets with less creativity and imagination than real puppets?
I saw the show, and you're right, you can't.
But it was a lot of fun. Yeah, no, we had a great time doing that show. It was a lot of fun working with Larry and being in that space. And
you guys did pretty good.
We did have a really good turnout. It was. We'd like to remount that show, so stay tuned.
I was just going to ask if you had any plans to do it again. So
Yeah.
No, well, great. Now you'll be able to make those improvements you couldn't afford last time.
We still have no budget.
No, it was absolutely hilarious. Yes, I still have my 3D glasses, by the way, because I don't know if you know this or not, but Kristian really only comes across as 2D. You need the glasses in order to see him in all his aspects.
You do. I look much better in 3D. I do. I've been told. With the lights out.
Our guest today is a Kristian favorite. Actually, it's everyone's favorite, Kristian Wuergler. What have you been up to, Chris?
Oh, summertime and the living is easy. Yep. All kinds of things. It just, I love
basketball.
summer.
You were playing granny basketball, if I remember.
I was, yeah. We have the summer off, but we'll be starting up again soon and hope to have new members. We had a big drive at TMU where we managed to get over 30 women signed up.
Whoa.
And they all have to be over 60.
My goodness.
Now, the rules are different than regular
The
basketball.
cheerleaders are over 80, just to kind of...
Well, the rules are different, so we're trying not to get injured.
So how did you do? Because this was your first season. How did you end up the season?
It's so small. We are the only team in Toronto.
Oh, I'm not asking about the team. I'm asking about you personally.
Oh, well, we had a year-end, a little get-together, and I got a lovely little, Vicky, our coach, gave everyone a little award, and mine was that I had picked up this new skills very quickly. So for not having played in an organized sport for so many years, it's quite daunting when you first start.
But you are now the most accomplished person.
Not most accomplished, but, at least I can pick up skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is hard to do as one gets older.
See, at my age, I can't pick up the basketball once it hits the floor and it stays there. Excuse me, can we get a young person to hand me the ball, please?
You're having trouble with bending over, I see.
Anyways, you want us to get all Latina and talk about 1998's The Mask of Zorro. And for the record, I completely missed up the title, and I started to watch 1974's The Mark of Zorro, but I realized there's no way you would have picked a movie that bad. Then I watched The Mask of Zorro and realized, yeah, you just might have. What's your history with Zorro? I believe that was your nickname for your husband, wasn't it?
Yeah, I like the way he worked his sword. No, when I was younger, there was a TV show.
Right.
I don't even know how long it was on for, 30 minutes, whatever.
Oh, Disney?
How would I know
Guy
at that
Williams,
point? I wasn't.
black and white Guy Williams.
Black and white, yeah.
1957 to
That's
59.
the one. I'm sure that was it. And my fascination was I loved when he would gouge the Z into things with his sword, because I thought that would be a real masterful thing to try and accomplish. Take a sword
No
and
kidding.
make this wonderful. And I loved that scene where he's on his horse and puts the sword up in the air and there's the moon in the background. You know, that symbol that you
rears
see.
the horse up on it.
Yeah. And I like the whole thing of him being a masked guy. Like there was always that question, who could it be? And all the people that didn't know who it was. I liked that part of it. Can't even remember what age I would have been.
Well, it was 57 to 59, although they did do reruns of it later. I remember watching it
It had
too.
to be reruns.
And ironically, it's on the Disney Channel. After watching the movie, I went back and started watching Zorro.
And did you enjoy it?
I did. I'm 4 episodes in. I don't know if I'm going to stick it through the whole series, but there was a certain charm to it, almost an Errol Flynn quality to Zorro. If you remember Errol Flynn in Robin Hood, he's sword fighting with Montessario or whatever the guy in charge there, the troops was, but he's doing it with this smile on his face like, aha, aren't we having fun here? And you know, I'm not, but you are.
I think that's why they call it a swashbuckler film. Yeah, yes. Kind of that whole feeling of it. When I was young like that, and there was the old black and white TV, a lot of the things were the Westerns. And I just couldn't get into the shooting and the, pull out your 6-shooter, whatever, and bang, bang, bang. Whereas with the
a bladed
Zorro,
weapon, you were fine.
Yeah, because it just, I don't know, there's something almost romantic about two people sword fighting. I don't know what it is.
It's interesting that
Take out your weapon.
It's interesting about that term up. I'm sure it's going to come up later as well. At that time, though, it did appeal to younger audiences. The Mask of Zorro, would you say that it appeals to younger audiences?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't think so. Not in the same way.
No?
No, because a lot of the stunts and things a lot of the critics were saying that was refreshing, that all of these things are done without special effects. Like the 3 main actors, Zeta Jones and Anthony Hopkins and Antonio Banderas, they trained for like 10 months on sword fighting with a professional. 10 months, for hours a day. Like they even complained about how it was getting a little bit out of hand. But when you're watching, like especially there's a scene between Zeta Jones and Antonio, and he doesn't realize that she has been trained in sword fighting. And she outwits him at one point, and he kind of looks at her like, how is that possible? This lovely, beautiful woman, how could you possibly wield this sword the way you do? So
so now they've got this skill set.
Yeah, like the
so if they are ever accosted on the street by an Olympic fencing champion, they can defend themselves.
I'm sure it would help in other ways.
Oh.
I think this would appeal to younger people because it is almost because I think of my reflection of like when I saw Zorro as a kid. And
I was just going to ask you about your history with Zorro.
Yeah, thank you. Let me tell you about my history with Zorro. I'm glad you asked.
I have bated breath for this moment.
Yes. I did see a couple episodes of the black and white, and of course a rerun. But I do remember seeing Zorro, and I thought it was played on the Disney Channel. Or the Disney on TV when we watched Disney
TV.
on TV on Sunday night.
Oh, like when they might do an episode of Zorro with
Oh, you're right, Kristian, where they actually had Walt Disney do a little blurb before the show came.
Right.
That's it. Because I was trying to figure out in my head how.
And this movie is it's cartoonish, quite like, just from the
comic.
It's somewhere between for adults and yet younger people as well, where you could watch, I think, as a family, even though this was a PG-13 film.
Tell me, Chris, do you see Zorro as a bad boy, or were you just swept up by the romance of this particular movie? You've got a history with bad boys, so
What makes that
you're
sound?
never going to lose that.
Gee,
You
at
do
my
know.
age, actually, I don't mind that. Go for it. I think it's the romance and what he stands for. Like he's not the villain. I mean, when he was training Banderas, when he wanted to be his mentor, he had said to him, Zorro doesn't steal. He stands up for the rights of people. And so I've always thought of Zorro not as the villain, but as the hero. And even though he does these amazing feats and he uses his sword and stuff, a lot of it's in defense. It isn't something he's initiating. It's because he's trying to fight this evil that exists. Mm-hmm. Isn't that what we're all going to the movies for? We are rooting for the good, most people, I would think, as opposed to the evil.
The one thing I will say about this Zorro movie, and it will be one of many things I'm going to say, is that when I watched the old Zorro series, he was always in support of the peasants against the evil guy who wanted to be the richest guy in Mexico. I never really saw an intimate interaction of Zorro with any of the people he was supposedly supporting. Yeah, there was that one scene at the end when they were where the gold miners were, and he freed them. But I just, when you watched Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, Robin Hood, poor people were there. He obviously had this interaction. Zorro seemed to have.
I don't know. I disagree with you.
You would disagree with that?
Well, right in the opening, because there are 3 men that are going to be shot. And Zorro comes flying in, he's rescuing them, and all the people are cheering because he's had this history with them. And the 2 little boys, it's actually Antonio Banderas' characters when he's a little boy and his brother. And Zorro, they help him in some way, and Zorro comes over and rewards him with a beautiful medallion. Why are people cheering? He's had to have some kind of interaction with them that's going to make his role a positive one. And the boys love him. They were carving out so they could see what was happening because they weren't supposed to be there because the governor had said, get all these children out of here. They're not supposed to be here. So I think Zorro, you've already been set up at the very beginning that he's built up this positive rapport with all the people, because even the governor at the beginning said, these men...
I don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
They were just random.
Yeah, random people he's picked up. So right from the get-go, who's the villain and going to be in this one? You don't need to have a degree to figure this out.
Yeah, but I just didn't feel that he really related to the people that much. He was more the adversary of the governor, less so than the supporter of the people. I never really got what he was doing in both the new Zorro and the old Zorro. But I will grant you that did happen at the beginning, which I think was supposed to establish that. It just didn't seem to have that intimacy that I would have expected.
Like having a cup of coffee with them or a glass of wine.
Yeah, that's sort of, Zorro's coming over to the house on Tuesday, so can we get a
I think it would be a really long movie if they were.
Did you see, I thought, and I thought this as a kid as well, that Zorro is essentially like a Mexican Batman.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Chris, did you see that? Oh, that opening scene when he goes back to the Batcave. The Zorro cave.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the thing that was really interesting that I couldn't stop reading, it was just because of all of this evolving. Because in 1919, The Curse of Capistrano, that Zorro's based on, was written. And it sold like 50 million copies and still one of the highest selling books. And Macaulay is the fellow that wrote it. And the other characters that you mentioned, Batman, Superman, all with dual identities, they didn't come about until the comic series in the 1938 or 39. So this was a precursor to all of these. So
I think Joe Shuster and Shuster and Siegel, who did the Batman, did tip the hat and say, that this is because of Zorro. And by the way, Chris just gave you the answer if you were wondering where the source of all these Zorro adventures was.
Whoopsie-daisy.
It was, that's okay. I've decided, let it go. I decided just to change it up today. What do they call it again?
The Curse of Capistrano?
Curse of Capistrano was the very first Zorro story, and he went on to write a ton of other ones as well.
And you know what? This was what was really fascinating. He wrote Zorro for 4 decades. And he had a total of 5 serialized stories and 57 short stories. And what happened was there was this, I can't remember the name of it now, but there was a weekly publication. And he would send in these stories and they would be sent out weekly. Now, this publishing company the Bold Venture Press collected all of them, and they put it into this thing called the Complete Pulp Adventures. It's 6 volumes of Zorro.
Wow.
Wow.
It was amazing, and it said that a character of Zorro has appeared in like 40 films, 10 TV series, and the most famous is the one that you mentioned at the beginning, Jim, was the Disney one.
Yeah.
56 and 57.
Well, it is
which
fascinating
the-
because the very first Zorro movie, the story is published in 1919, is 1920.
Douglas Fairbanks.
What is the appeal to Zorro? This is more than Robin Hood or any of the other ones, really. He's had a huge influence.
Well, they say with the Mark of Zorro that was Douglas Fairbanks had starred in,
Right.
he had introduced that famous Zorro costume. And it's changed. They said it's evolved.
Well, always does.
The one that Banderas, the sombrero he was wearing, if you notice, that was different than Anthony Hopkins. He just had a regular black one, whereas Banderas has had the ornamental decoration of, like, I don't know if it was Mexican themed or Spanish, but they said it had evolved, and some of them actually covered the whole head. So when the hat flew off, you couldn't tell what hair Zorro had, just in the mask.
It almost, what is it, the do-rag that they put on their heads today? That's what the mask looked like back in the day. When you watched the Guy Williams Disney one, it was just a strip of material that just went around the back of the head. So interesting. Anyway, let's jump ahead and get into the credits because, my goodness, we're a third of the way through and I haven't touched on the credits yet. Well, it was directed by Martin Campbell. He did Casino Royale and GoldenEye, 2 of the James Bond series. It was written by Johnson McCulley, Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, Randall Johnson, and John Asco. And the cast included Stuart Wilson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Anthony Hopkins, Antonio Banderas, Matt Letcher, and Luisa Ertes. And the estimated budget was $95 million, and the estimated box office worldwide was $250 million. I think we call that a success. Those figures are all from IMDb. I find it interesting. If you take the U.S. and Canadian box office figures, it comes up nearly $1 million short of breaking even. But when you take in the worldwide figures, it was a big hit. Why do you think the rest of the world embraced the story so much? Is it the same reason the people here did?
Well, I think it's probably because everything is American with American accents. And this is set in a different place, Mexico. Maybe it's more of a neutral, and maybe it's backgrounds people are not familiar with, especially the set, with all the flames and the candles and the burning embers at night. It's beautiful. Like, it actually reminded me of Disney has a Mexican themed building. And it reminded me so much of this movie.
Yeah, that would be at Epcot, right?
In Epcot. Oh, yeah, right. In Epcot. And it has the tables are set up, the beautiful candles and the flames burning at night. And there's a romanticism, even the music and the way they dance and move. And even that scene between Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones where they do this flaming dance where... and she's dancing and she almost looks like she's sweating at the end. And she's so affected by his sexuality. You can see it. Like it was
very
screen.
visceral. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was moved by that.
So maybe getting back to your original question about it
Hi,
having...
welcome back again, Chris.
I know.
It was at that
missed
moment. It was at that moment of the dancing when I watched this. It's like, oh, this is why Chris likes the movie. It was like
I love.
It's funny you say that because I had the same thought. Because the woman who tells me she hates musicals with all the singing and dancing has brought more musical dancing stuff to this podcast than any other person.
Well, what can I say? There's an appeal. There's something. It's not like the old traditional Singing in the Rain musicals. This is... Anyway, getting back to your question, it's an international flavor, maybe. Like, they even said that the Spanish king and queen had not been to the movies for like 9 years, and they went to see this because it brought back Spanish history. I think it appeals to every nationality.
It's interesting that they made this, and they must have known it was going to need more than the United States and Canada to make money. It's a lot of money. And I think that's normal today. You don't make money or make movies for the kind of money you make today unless you have an international market. But it's a fascinating subject because you're dealing with something in America where history in America kind of starts in California in 1849 with the gold rush.
Right.
What went on with the Mexicans and the Spanish prior to that is not something you usually see reflected at all
No, not unless, of course, you think about the Alamo or those Western movies that are the battle between Mexico and the U.S. And those movies are really about the Americans taking over the Spanish-Mexican territories.
It was about Mexico splitting off from Spain, and then you had this governor who was going to buy California and split it off. And the movie says that's not a good thing, yet that's exactly the kind of thing that America would normally embrace, this idea of independence. But this movie said, no, you should stay in as part of Mexico. Just fascinated me on that.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where that worked historically with this group, this governor, this whoever our baddie is trying to buy this off a revolutionary.
Santa Anna was a general in the Mexican army. I think he was in charge of Mexico, famous for being the guy that the guys at the Alamo opposed.
Right. And so then the illusion is, or the ruse is that Spain is going to be buying this off of Santa Anna, and you're going to have an independent California. How do we just... Yeah, that's such a confusing plot.
Yeah, it is. And that point is where, it does get confusing, I think, because Spain wasn't buying it. The governor has stolen all that gold that was supposedly Santa Anna's. By the way, I don't know who Santa Anna's bookkeepers are, but if you don't notice that much gold suddenly went missing from your California gold fields, something is desperately wrong. And by the way, let me just point out that this takes place around 1830, and the California gold rush did not take place until 1849. There was no widespread gold mining in California at the time.
They had a head start. Yeah.
Those crafty Mexicans, that's why they keep coming back across the border. We left some of the gold behind. Don't let the gringos know where it is.
They sure were pretty little bars, though. They were shiny and nicely formed and had their little emblem on them. I would like to have one. Just one.
Just one.
I think we can't avoid it any longer, Chris. Do you suppose you could give us a synopsis of this movie?
A synopsis? No. Okay. Well... The villain, a corrupt governor whose name is Montero, does some terrible things and ruins the life of the original Zorro, who trains Alejandro to be his replacement, to seek revenge on Montero and his right-hand man, Captain Love, a U.S. cavalry man, and their ultimate goal is to discover the evil plan that he has hatched.
You know what my ultimate goal would be?
Yes.
To discover how an American from the Civil War suddenly showed up in 1830 California. He's got a 6-shooter. Everybody else, back at that time, it was one shot and it wasn't even super accurate. I looked up the military uniforms for 1830.
No go.
Not even close.
I know. I had to go back, too, to find out these historical references because I was a little bit stumped. And if you notice, even at the very beginning when he meets Alejandro and his brother, Joaquin, or I don't know how to pronounce that, Joaquin, you know how they stop all of a sudden and they notice that there's the cavalry or whatever with Captain Love right in the center of them. Well, they're not U.S. cavalry. They are Mexican. Yeah. So he is a loner by himself in charge of these, and is the right-hand man of Montero. I went back, and he did exist 10 years earlier. Yeah, Captain Love is historically
correct.
Yes, but 10 years earlier than that.
What year would this be?
Well, 10 years earlier.
1820?
What a great name, Captain Love. Like, it sets some expectations, doesn't it?
Harrison Love, yeah. That was his actual name. Ultimately, after reading all this, the impression that I got was that he ended up being in the U.S. Rangers, and then he did some bad things, so he became a bounty hunter, and his main job was to capture or kill those bandits, the Joaquin and his brothers. That was one of his main goals. And he had a reputation because I guess he was in the war and he had success under his belt and blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, I think he was a rogue. He wasn't really
a mercenary.
He was a mercenary.
Exactly. And he did, in the real confrontation, he did preserve the head, and he did take Three-Fingered Jack's hand and put them in large glass jars. And he used to sell, if you wanted to see them, you would have to pay a certain amount of money to see.
I'm having, I think fiction and fact may be merging together here in this story.
No, this was historically correct.
Okay. I want to know why he decided to take the head of the brother when he got it.
It
I
was
can also
to-
point out, by the way, this is how little respect I have for the Mexican army at that time. He's the only one with a gun. Everybody else has got a lance with a flag on it. They line up behind him. If the guys want to run away, they got one guy they got to run away from. That's all you got. What he had is cheerleaders. Is right behind him were this bunch of cheerleaders. The flag squad was all set to do some fancy flag work on the back of their horses. But why did he cut the heads off? Because it was his job to catch these people. Does that mean he had a whole collection of heads?
No, he had to prove that he had actually captured the gang, one of the gang leaders. That's why he had to prove it. And then someone, supposedly historically, a woman saw it, and she was related and said, "That's not the head of the man that you're supposed to have killed and got the money for."
This
was a proof that he had killed.
But in this particular character, in reality, as a mercenary, a guy who's a bounty hunter has to do that. I kind of understand that. But this guy was working for the government. I don't know that he needed the head, or if that was the case, it wasn't just because they were two small-time bandits.
According to the historical thing, it wasn't just bandits. They were the Five Joachim's gang, and they were noted for being killers and thieves, and it was much more than what it was in this movie.
It just seems so convenient that when the time came, he had the head of the brother to show to him that here's the head of, I think this is your brother. And
in the actual movie.
in the movie.
Oh, yeah, that was for effect.
Well, he did invite him up, saying, "Hey, listen, I want you to come back to my office later." You know,
I know, I thought that was a bit...
So he had it on
That
hand.
could be risque.
Yeah.
Come and have a
It
drink,
was like, come and have a drink. You,
Right.
me, and the head of your brother.
Yeah.
Did the movie have a certain Pirates of the Caribbean vibe to it, do you think?
I think so.
Chris?
Is that swashbuckling quality that you speak of? Yeah. It's cartoonish, piratey Western. It's a pirate Western.
It's a pirate Western.
It's funny you say that because last night I was looking at the research, whatever, and I stumbled across, you know how when you go on YouTube, you get all these other things. And there was Johnny Depp in his pirate getup. And there was a similarity. There is this persona of, I can't even describe what, again, romanticism, I guess, like of what is to come. And he was going into a hospital. And so he was visiting children who had...
Oh, okay.
You know,
we
as
needed
a
that
pirate,
context.
as a real pirate.
I thought he was in the supermarket doing some shopping and whatnot. I'm trying to get into character. Just ignore me. Just go about your business like
But
nothing is happening.
why would he dress up as a pirate to do this? If he went as Johnny Depp.
They wouldn't know him.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there is this romanticism, right?
Yeah, there is
Pirate.
a similarity between Antonio Banderas and Johnny Depp.
I like
there's
the
a
way you
quality.
say that, Christian. Could you say that again?
Antonio Banderas.
Oh, yes, I like that. Yes, very good.
I'm here to find the guy who killed my father.
Listen, there's a lot of
It's the
action.
shades of Godfather.
There's a lot of action thriller moments in this movie. What did you think of the big fight scenes and how they integrated into the story?
I like the fact that they're doing the sword fighting, so I didn't find that long or boring. That was part of it. It would get too romantic if it was just scenes between Elena and Alejandro. This is appealing to all the audience, right? The women in the audience, like the little dancing, the romanticism, and the sword fighting.
I think Roger Ebert said it best. He said it was nice to see a movie where they wrote the story and then figured where the action goes rather than decide, here's the action we're going to have. Now we'll make a story where we can integrate it in. It made sense when they did have their fight scenes that they would have the fight scenes.
Exactly, because there was another critic who also said, you get tired of the digital things. Is someone actually doing this or is it contrived? A lot of the critics, I mean, there was one critic, he did say he found it it was a little bit long, but he liked it in the fact that it was, like you said, Errol Flynn and Tyrone Power kind of movies. So that appealed to him, but his criticism was that it was a bit long.
Well, we've really spent a lot of time going all over the map here, but let's jump back to the beginning of the movie and talk about how that scene when Diego gets home, Diego being Zorro in real life, to his wife and his newborn daughter, how that sets up the rest of the movie.
You mean Anthony Hopkins Zorro?
Excuse me, Anthony Hopkins Zorro.
How that starts that's...
Yeah, how it sets everything up. What did you think of that setup?
I thought that was horrible. It was just It made Montero the evil that he was.
Right.
There was no doubt about it. It was an accident that his wife was shot because one of his men overstepped his bounds and she got in the way. He was trying, I guess, to shoot Zorro.
Right.
And then Montero took his sword and stabbed him right away, his own man.
Yeah.
He did feel bad. He said he would never have harmed him. Of course, Zorro said, well, it's not your job to protect her. So she's laying there, and then the whole house is on fire. He's been caged now. And out comes Montero in this blanket carrying Elena, the baby.
Yep.
And you're
then
just like,
takes her back to Spain.
yeah. So he's stolen Zorro's child.
Mm-hmm.
And that sets the whole movie, because now you know this is going to be an act of revenge, because there's no way that Zorro's going to let him get away with it, even though he's been put in a despicable place for, 20 years?
Yeah, which kind of stretched my line of credulity that he managed to escape once he realized that Montero was back with his daughter. But for 20 years, I kind of would think that your skill set might have really kind of run down in that interim.
You thought he should have escaped sooner than that.
Yeah, you needed it for the movie. I won't deny that, but that does push the line of credulity a little bit, don't you think?
I suppose so. I guess had he used that skill, but I think it all depends on the opportunity too, because it was kind of all set up. That one fellow was killed, and then the undertakers came to get him, and it was just, a lot of things happen in our lives. A moment different, and it would be totally different result, right? I'm being devil's advocate.
If you didn't think this is a superhero movie when you saw the Zorro Cave, you had to think it was a superhero movie when they buried Zorro, Anthony Hopkins' character, and after they left, he climbed out of the grave.
It wasn't very deep.
No, but
And he was covered with a sack, because I wondered that too, because if he didn't have a sack on top of him, how is he going to breathe through the dirt? Whereas at least the sack would give him maybe a little bit of leeway with
Chris,
no.
This is before Ziploc bags.
It was that great scene though when the dagger comes shooting up and there's a blast of music that goes right along with it. It was pretty suspenseful.
Yeah, I was in.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. I'm not worried about what Jim's saying here about.
This was their Shawshank Redemption moment. You know, when Andy Lafrine got out of the sewer? This was Zorro coming out of the grave.
With real dramatic music.
Oh, he does.
And a huge dagger.
And you notice when that soldier or whatever for Montero shot the wife, it was the only time they had a good shot. They're terrible marksmen.
Oh.
Throughout the movie.
They would go on to become stormtroopers in Star Wars.
Yes.
But isn't that always the way of the hero in the movie can shoot 3 bullets and get everybody, whereas the villains, they can shoot machine guns and not get anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Or throw grenades or...
That brings us to Alejandro Murrieta. On the basis of doing a favor for Zorro and saving his life, which is quite the memory on Zorro because he's changed a lot since that time, but he recognizes him even before he sees the little medallion he's wearing. But he takes him under his wing to become the new Zorro. And Zero? Well, you could be the judge on that. But the new Zorro, I was trying to figure out why he did that. Because when I looked at him, he's a drunk in a thing, picking a fight, can't fight very well. And he decides that this is the guy he's going to turn into the new Zorro. I'm sorry. This is something inside my brain.
It's one ROA.
I thought he should have had more reason. He should have seen more potential in the guy beyond the fact he saved my life once. I'm going to make him into Zorro. I'm pretty sure if he did that with me or with Kristian, we would be dead within 30 minutes. There's no question about it.
I'm not going to argue.
Don't you think that was a little arbitrary to decide to take him on as the new Zorro?
On the one hand, though, he was giving him a chance. He saw that maybe he had been in the cafe for a while and heard him speaking about his brother had been killed. Who knows? He could have overhear him talking to the butler. to the drink server, the bartender.
Well, you know what? Your butler reference is not far off. I'm going to be honest with you because what happens next may be the strangest turn in the whole movie. He takes him back to the Zorro Cave to train this guy who has just escaped from prison. this guy who's been on, this outlaw that's been on the run with nothing, and they suddenly acquire a full wardrobe. I had no idea where all these fancy clothes they were wearing came from.
Jim, do you need to have everything given to you? Like, do you need them to go into a room and Zorro say, Alejandro, I think you need a new costume. Here, you can... Like, did you want all of that picked up?
I think there was a scene missing where they should have robbed something so that they could afford to be...
Yeah, but they're not supposed to rob. Remember, he's not a thief.
Well, then how about this? He could have gone back to the Zorro cave and he'd hidden some pesos away just in case this should ever happen to him. And he has to come back 20 years in the future and train an alternate Zorro.
This is getting complicated.
Zorro's a little bit like a John Wick, isn't he? I'm also thinking this now.
Oh.
Yeah.
I got addicted to I watched all of those recently. I didn't realize how addicting they really are.
Yeah, they're candy.
Yeah, it's just... And you're rooting for him the entire time. Like, you're just on the edge of your seat waiting. We can't do any of those, Jim, because they're the wrong time.
I guess. Well, is it this juncture that Diego...
I don't think Jim knows the John Wick series.
No, I don't. I've never watched the John Wick movies.
The only reason
God being well, I probably never will.
The only reason was I heard a group of soccer players talking about their favorite movie, and they were talking about how they were emulating John Wick.
I just got you into granny basketball, and now I got you into soccer? What is going on in your life?
Move to Toronto can do a lot of things.
I shudder to speculate. So anyways, you were saying.
What was I saying?
Why you watched John Wick. Something soccer players said to you.
Oh, you're going back to that? I thought we've finished. No, they just said that was, they were trying to emulate some of his characteristics that were his courage and his perseverance and never giving up. And I guess Zorro is it's almost the same. Even the replacement Zorro, Antonio Banderas' character, he kept working. Once he went and he wanted to steal a horse and he was having trouble and he came back and Anthony Hopkins' character said, "We don't steal, you should have waited." And then until he had enough skill, then the original Zorro handed him the mask and said, "Now you are ready."
Okay. Now, I'm not going to deny the fact that I did find some pleasure in watching this movie. But I definitely kept going, why is this happening? How did this occur? Where did this come from? All the ways through. The connection that his daughter made with the fact that she was, to be clear about this, it was a loving father for 20 years that she had in Spain. He sent her out to learn how to sword fight for some reason, because apparently that's what women do in Spain. They learn to sword fight. He sent her out to do all of this stuff, and she comes back, and she kind of goes back to Diego, to the original Zorro, Anthony Hopkins, on the flimsiest of evidence.
That crucial scene at the end, where everybody's sword fighting and they're at the mine and everything. Zorro, Anthony Hopkins' character, Zorro, was going to stab Montero, and she came running and she said, "Stop." Now, if she didn't love her dad of 20 years, she wouldn't have got in between there. I think what changed the whole scenario was he took a gun and put it to her neck so that Zorro would drop the sword.
He was willing to sacrifice his adopted daughter in order to defeat Zorro.
For his own life.
Okay.
And I thought, well, that doesn't have to hit you over the head. And then she almost got shot because in the exchange, I watched that scene a couple of times. I couldn't really figure out what had happened, but it seemed like his gun had gone off and she was thrown to the ground. And it was almost a similar scene of Zorro's first, when his wife gets killed.
Well, that was definitely supposed to be an echo of that.
It was similar to that. So here, this young woman, Elena, who's her father, Montero, supposedly loved her for 20 years. I think she was an object for him. Because I don't know if you noticed, whenever she was like that dance, he right away came and he was watching. His behavior was inappropriate for a father almost. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but older men sometimes will date younger women. They call them trophy wives. So,
I'm the reverse. Yeah. I'm kind of a trophy husband on my end.
Yeah, she was an obsession I think.
She walked in, remember when they first arrived from Spain, and she's beautifully dressed and everybody watches her and this is my daughter. Like it was more like a symbol of this beautiful woman that I have at my side. Like I didn't get there was that father loving, affectionate thing. Jim, I know it was flimsy, but she did have a run-in with the nanny in the market who gave her that scarf.
Yes.
And that must have been a shocking realization for her too.
How
that
could it be?
my mom.
She was what, 6 months old when he took her?
No, but the woman's saying your mother didn't die in childbirth, and the fact that she had been her nanny. Like,
hold on, she wouldn't know she was her nanny because she was 6 months old. Let's say,
of course.
This is just a story that some crazy lady in the market would have told her.
I don't know. If that happened to me, I'd.
You might be unfamiliar with Nanny and Me. It was the early DNA testing before DNA testing. You just went to Nanny and Me and then to go, oh yeah, that was the baby I looked after.
No way.
No.
Look, Chris, if you're going to make jokes, you're going to have to remember there's a certain naivete to Christine that we really have to take into consideration.
I'm used to
She completely, folks, you couldn't see it, but she was sitting there with this look on her face of, oh my God, I didn't know that.
I'm used to Phil that when Jim says something, he'll check it up. And you're looking at the computer and I'm like, where the hell did he get
Oh, Are
you saying I'm naive? Yeah, probably.
I did think the plan and it was a natural need of a plan, but for the new Zorro to suddenly acquire charm and manners in a week? There was nothing there to suggest that was going to be an easy task. And he turns out to be charming, and he turns out to be so glib. In the original Zorro, the Disney version of it, he was coming home with his mute servant, Bernardo, and he realized what was going on. He says, then I must become a hero. But what I will do is I will pretend to be this floppy guy who's... He had training in Spain on his way back to California. So when he arrived, it made perfect sense. And here...
So you're saying it's more believable.
Yeah, you can get a veneer of civility. That's not really a difficult thing to do. But it's the depth of the civility.
I see your point, but Alejandro did say at one point, this is not going to be easy, especially when he had to go and be in front of all of those dons and sit for dinner and stuff.
Right.
I mean, he didn't seem overly confident. He didn't seem sure of himself. He was close to drowning himself before getting there. Like, it took a lot on his part to do that.
This comes to a head with this plan to secede from Mexico, or rather to buy Mexico with Santa Anna's own gold.
By California.
Yes. Sorry, I said Mexico, did not. California, you're right. So that they can set it up as a separate country. And he has to have all the dons together. Why did he have to have the dons there? He had the money already. He had the stolen gold. What exactly did the dons bring to the party that he had to bring them in on his plan?
I would think that he can't do it by himself. And he had initially at the beginning, if you notice, he had granted the dons all this land, thanking them for their support. So I don't think you can do this as an independent agent. You need to have people around you who could help. He can't do it by himself. He needs an entourage. There it is, all the dons.
Well,
his little underlings, whatever.
I guess you do have some support, but he had the money to buy the place. And bringing the dons in, by the way, also opened up the possibility of somebody going to Santa Ana and saying, hey, did you know what this guy's been doing with your money, your gold? I didn't see an upside to this plan at all.
Look what's happening in our world where a leader puts people in situations where they do things I'm sure they know are wrong, but they follow along because they want to be part of the wealth or what is going to come from all of that. And even though they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
They all had something to gain from this. So their stake is... Yeah, so then their stake is equally shared. That each of them has apparently their own territory, so he needs the support of the territories in case he gets an army. So come on, guys. I don't really like you. I'm probably going to screw you over just like I am, everybody else in my life, but I need you here now.
And they do it. And why?
Definitely self-interest involved.
Yeah, which in the big picture creates that terrible situation for the regular Mexican people who are slaves and,
peons, as they're called at the time.
Exactly.
Oh, they're actually called peons?
Don't read into that. They are that's what they were. I believe they were called, the peons. Peons, just to be clear here.
In a lot of different, not just Mexico, but people that are used.
Yeah, and they definitely were.
Yeah, that's happening more and more in our world.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so basically, what we need is a contemporary Zorro.
Which one of you is going to step forward?
Well,
I can make the costume.
I can play the Anthony Hopkins part, but I kind of screwed after that.
Getting back to honesty and doing the right thing, just as Zorro did. I mean, that would be my hope.
I guess it's the honesty and the integrity that Zorro brings to the role.
It's hard in this world to stand up for what we believe in.
Okay, so anybody out there who wants to don the mask and cape of Zorro?
I wanted to as a kid. I really did.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we all did.
For sure.
Because I can remember going out with kids and we were all getting a piece of wood lath and then playing sword fighting, and our parents were going, put that away, you're going to poke your eye out.
And my dad bought me 6 shooters with a cowboy hat and the little skirt and the cowboy boots, and I really wanted the sword, but
she said, no, you're Annie Oakley, you're not.
We're casting you.
yeah, I think, wasn't it Annie Oakley at the time? Yeah, whoever it was.
And to get your gun.
And you get your gun. And she was also had a Western, I think, as well, TV show. So there you go. Coming up next is our Halloween show. We actually recorded it a couple months ago and then realized it would be perfect for Halloween. So we've been sitting on it ever since. It's with Larry Smith, your cohort, Kristian. Mm-hmm. And he's going to talk about 1948's Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Now, 3 years prior to the movie, Abbott and Costello had an idea for monsters, or rather to use monsters, but it wasn't going to be for a movie. Where were they going to use them? There's something to think about. And to be sure not to miss that episode, just hit the subscribe button right now. And if you can, give us a rating and a review. It really does help us reach more listeners. If you want to reach us, you can do so at balconypodcast@icloud.com. We're also on Facebook. Look for the microphone against the red background. Our usual big thank you to Chris for doing this. Any plans going forward? Trips, renovations, lovers? And what about you, Kristian? What's up for you as we roll into fall? Any shows coming up?
Well, you can find me at a regular rotation at Laugh at the Judge. Yes, the Judge at 24... Where the heck is it?
Augusta Street.
Augusta Street. Oh, no, it's been a while. I've been away for a while. So it'd be nice to be back.
Say the city. Don't have people in Cleveland going, where the hell is
Augusta Street? Listen, in beautiful Hamilton, Ontario. That's right. It's like the Timmins of Southern Ontario.
Well, at least it is in the part where you live. As for me, I'm Jimmy England, and I don't need anything because I'm always going back to the balcony. Stay safe, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.